It is goal setting time. It is the time of year where we all look toward who do we want to be? How do we want to show up in the new year? How do we want to change? And what goals are we going to accomplish? What experiences are we going to bring into our lives? But one of the most important elements to whether or not you're going to change, whether or not you're going to make your dreams come true, whether or not you're actually going to move the needle toward that dream life that you want to have is how we manage our time. And yet this continues to be one of the most challenging aspects of productivity, right? Because there's just so many different demands on our time. And there's that tricky motivation factor where it's like, maybe we know exactly what we're supposed to do. We know exactly what we're heading toward, but we're either so overwhelmed by how much there is to do, or we're so burned out, or we're so directionless in some way, or it seems so far away from our goals that when it's time to sit down and get to work, sometimes finding the motivation and getting past the overwhelm can be a real challenge. So I'm going to share with you the 8 time management tips that have totally transformed my life over the last few years, and I hope they will help you as well. So tip number 1 is to work in task blocks. So you could look at this multiple different ways. I'm sure you've heard of this before if you've been around in productivity circles, which is to work in Pomodoros. The Pomodoro method is a little bit less flexible in that you're expected to work for 25 minutes with a 5-minute break. And then every 4th Pomodoro, I think it is, you take a longer, like 20-minute break. So I have never really resonated with taking that rigid of this is exactly when I can take a break. But I do love the idea of working in what you might call sprints. And this is when I first discovered it, was when I joined National Novel Writing Month all the way back in 2007 or 2008. And writers were working in sprints where they would set a timer for 25 minutes and see how much you could do. And this unlocked so much for me because I realized that instead of just sitting there kind of casually writing or checking my phone or getting distracted, if I told myself I've got 20 minutes to get as much done as I can, especially, by the way, when there's other people with me, which we'll talk about in a minute, then I will just focus in. And it's such an amazing focus tool when you tell yourself, I can look at my email or my Instagram, or I can get distracted later, but I'm telling my brain I'm going to focus in, and it's just for a limited amount of time. So I say 20 minutes or 25 minutes, I'm going to get this work done. And I used to only use it for my writing, but now it has been incorporated into every piece of my life, including incorporating it into my HB90 quarterly planning system. So the way that I use task blocks is not just that I set a timer for 30 minutes. What I do when I'm planning is I will set a goal for the entire quarter. So let's say my goal is to grow this YouTube channel and my email list and my income around this YouTube channel. So I have a goal around that outcome. Then I'll take that goal and I'll decide what projects I want to complete that are going to help me hit that goal. So I'm going to do a weekly newsletter. I'm going to have a weekly video. I'm going to create courses and so on. So I have those projects, and then I break those projects down into each individual task. So if I'm making a weekly video, then I'm going to make 13 videos over the course of the quarter. So I will have those in tasks. Now, if you've seen my videos before, you know that I actually use a physical Kanban board on the wall, and each task gets its own Post-it note. So you can go check out one of those videos. I'll link it for you down below. Where task blocks come into the mix is during the planning process. What I have found has revolutionized my entire life. I am not exaggerating here, is to take a look at my entire quarter and look at my schedule for the week. What's a typical week for me? And then I figure out how many 30-minute task blocks or 30-minute work sessions I realistically will spend in any given week. And I come up with a number for the week and a number for the entire quarter. So let's say I'm going to work 40 task blocks every single week. I would multiply that times 13 weeks. But I also look at things like, when do I have a dentist appointment, or how often do I get ill and need an unexpected break? So I build in buffer time to that as well. So maybe I would say 40 task blocks a week times 13 weeks, and then I'd subtract maybe 20 or 30 task blocks from that to give myself a buffer time. But what that gives me is a total task blocks that I feel like is a realistic expectation for myself to work throughout the entire 90-day quarter. Then what I do is I go back to that list of tasks and projects that I made for myself, and I estimate how long each of those tasks will take. So if I wanted to make a weekly newsletter, for example, I will have 13 of those that I need to create throughout the quarter in order to stick to my goals. Let's say I estimate, based on previous execution of this type of task, that it's going to take me about 2 task blocks or a full hour every single week in order to finish my newsletter. So then I would know that in order to successfully complete 13 newsletters throughout the quarter, I would need 26 task blocks in order to get that work done. And then I make sure that once I've estimated how long every project is going to take me, that nothing is going to take me, like the sum of all those projects isn't going to take me more than the time I allotted for myself over the quarter. And I know this sounds like a lot of math, and just kind of explaining it this way might sound a little bit confusing. But basically, you're looking at your realistic amount of time that you have over the course of the quarter, and then you're estimating how long the projects you want to get done are going to take, and you make sure that there's no disconnect, that you're not putting more on your plate than you can actually realistically get done in any given quarter. And what I have found time and time again is that I always think I can do more than I have time for. And once I really put numbers or task blocks to the actual projects, I start to realize that instead of planning for 90 days worth of work, I've just planned for like an entire year's worth of work in 90 days. And that was why I was constantly feeling overwhelmed and behind and exhausted, and why I was never getting enough done. And instead of blaming my planning system, I was blaming myself and saying, well, Sarah, you're just too lazy. You're not working hard enough. But then I would be like, but I'm already working at my max. How can I possibly do more? And it was this constant negative momentum that I was putting on myself because I was feeling always behind, like I was never good enough, like there was something wrong with me. And once I changed to this type of planning system where I say, here's the amount of time I have, here's how long I think everything will take, and I make sure that those two numbers match up. If I have 800 task blocks for the quarter, I make sure that I have less than 800 task blocks worth of work on my plate. And it's not perfect. It's not like I have to track every single moment of my day. And it's not like I have to make sure that I work exactly when I said I was going to, but just planning in this way of working in 30-minute sessions and looking at my time as a holistic, like cohesive piece has helped me to plan more realistically. Then when I execute my days, when I actually sit down on a Monday morning to do something, I know exactly how many task blocks I have for the day. So maybe it's 12 task blocks for any given Monday. And this somehow unlocks something in my brain that says, you don't want to waste any time because I have 12 blocks worth of work to do, and I don't want to waste a block talking to somebody that was toxic or checking my Instagram. I can do that on my off time. But something about structuring my time in those 30-minute sessions really has changed the game for me. So if you're interested in learning more, I do have several videos about my HB90 system, and there is a planner on Etsy if you want to go through the process on your own, or next March we'll open up our HB90 course again. But even if you just take your time and try this for yourself on a weekly basis, you might find yourself surprised by how you're putting more work on your plate than you can reasonably do in the time you have. The second piece of that for me is to track how I'm using my time. So the planning portion of it is planning and estimating for the future. But then I also recommend on the other side of that to track where your time actually went. And I have a couple of ways of doing this. So this little device is called a Timular. It has a monthly subscription, so it's more expensive than something like the Toggle app or something that's free. So you could do either way. But this little device has a different task or group of tasks. So like my writing or admin stuff or some of my video creation will be on each one of these sides. And when I put a certain side up on my desk, my phone and this device begin tracking which task I'm working on, so that later on I can look back and say, oh my gosh, I estimated I was going to spend 3 task blocks on my video this week, but it took me 8. So then I can know for next week, maybe I need to set aside 8 task blocks for that video, because if I consistently take 5 to 8 task blocks, but I'm only giving myself 3, logically, I'm always going to be behind. So I don't always use this, to be honest. I would like to develop more of a habit of using this every single day in the new year. So that is part of my like goal system for 2023. But I do consistently try to have a paper planner where I go in and just mark my days throughout, like mark what I did throughout the day. I either do this right after I've finished something, or I do it at the end of the day where I just jot down like it took me this long to do this long to do this. And then I can go back and look at where I spent my time over the week. But if you combine the estimating part with the tracking once it's already happened, then you can start to marry those two things up where you can say, okay, most of us overestimate how much we can get done in a week, but then we underestimate how long things will take. And that is why if you're feeling constantly overwhelmed, it's probably something like that, that you have more on your plate than you actually have time for. Or the other possibility is that you know what you need to do, you know where you want to spend your time, but you're just not following through on it because of some other type of resistance. So what I have found is that the tracking of things and the clarity of knowing how many task blocks I have actually motivates me to get out of bed and go actually follow through on those tasks. But there are some more tips that I think will help you if that is the case with you, that you have the time, but you're just not spending it on your goals. So tip number 3 is to identify your non-negotiables. Basically, when you sit down for the week or for the day, it can be so game-changing to identify these are the 3 things I'm getting done no matter what. Some people will call this your top 3. For me, I don't ever call it a top 3 because sometimes it's 2 things. Sometimes it's only one most important thing. Sometimes it's 6 things that just have to get done. So for me, it's not always 3, but these are things that I will actually take a highlighter. I was kind of looking around. That I will actually take a highlighter and I will highlight at the beginning of my day. Okay, I have these 12 tasks that I'm trying to get done, but these are the 2 that must get done today. I have to make this phone call. I have to get 1,000 words written. And once I have identified those priorities, I will not go to bed until those things are done. And so it motivates me to go ahead and get them done as early as possible. So in that way, knowing that they're a priority sometimes helps me overcome the resistance because I can look at my schedule and say, okay, these are the 2 things I'm going to get done. And I know I'll feel like a success if they're done. So if those 2 things are done by noon, wow, the rest of the day is gravy. It's like I've built up so much positive momentum that I know I can keep going and I'm feeling excited and I'm feeling accomplished. And then on those days where it's like I had 12 things on my list, but this was the one that was most important and I did it, I can still go to bed focused on the fact that I got my most important thing done and forgive myself and give myself a little bit of grace for the like 11 other things that didn't get done because I know I was sticking to my priorities and that's most important. So just taking a moment. So for me, I have that quarterly plan. And then at the beginning of every week, I will take those Post-it notes down from my to-do section into like, this is what I'm going to get done this week section on my Kanban board. And I'll also write those tasks down in my planner. Then as I get to every single day of the week, I'll decide which of those tasks I'm going to tackle today. And then I will take that highlighter and I will highlight the ones that are most important for the day. And that has been my process now for a while. And it is so helpful. Where I fall short on this is that my writing is often not one of those urgent things. And so if you're constantly putting the urgent thing as the non-negotiable, but you're like falling short on the things that are actually most important for moving you forward in your career, but they don't have necessarily like an urgent deadline or they're daily priorities, sometimes there can be a disconnect there. So that's my tip and my warning and how I'm hoping to improve in the new year is to continue to put those events that aren't necessarily deadline focused or urgent, but are necessary to my career and my well-being as a person, those still become non-negotiable. Number 4 is to group similar tasks. And you could look at this on a weekly basis, a daily basis, a monthly basis, however you would like to look at it. But this is kind of like task batching, right? So if I have a bunch of emails that I need to answer every week, or I know I'm going to be scheduling out Facebook posts, instead of doing that every single day, I would try to sit down on a Monday and knock out as much of it as I can all in one like chain of task blocks. So I might sit down for 2 to 5 task blocks and get as much of that sort of admin or social media work done on a Monday so that I don't have to deal with it as much throughout the rest of the week. Similarly, I try to put all of my recording in on one single day of the week so that I don't have to do hair and makeup or set up my, lights or anything like that. I try to get it done all on the same day so that I can batch that task. And that saves me a lot of time because instead of having to set up my camera 3 different times throughout the week, I just set it up once, I get all my recording done for the week, and then I don't have to pull it out again. Same thing with meetings or Zoom calls. I try to do them all in one day so that I can say, this is my meeting day. And I know I'm going to be spending time on the computer, and I've got, all of those similar types of tasks put together. Now, when it comes to certain types of tasks like your writing or things you want to do every single day, you can't always batch or group those together. So just as a side bonus tip, with those types of tasks that you can't batch, and it's just something that you want to do recurring as a habit every single day that's different from your other work, is to have some kind of transition ritual into that more creative or daily space. So for me, something that worked a lot during NaNoWriMo when I was trying to write every single day was I would have that writing time scheduled in my planner, and I would do a little bit of a ritual where I would go get coffee or tea. I would set out my little beads so I could track my word count. I would light a candle and get myself ready, turn on a little bit of music, maybe turn the lights down and get in the mood. And then I would get started. Total, it takes 5 minutes to have that little transition ritual. But over time, it started to click something on in my brain that said it's writing time. And that was super helpful for me. Tip number 5 is to work alongside other people. This can be such a game changer. So just co-working in a Zoom space with other people, and even if you're not talking to each other, even if you're not even discussing or working on the similar types of projects, knowing that somebody else is there helps with the accountability. It helps with getting it done. Particularly if you're someone with ADHD, this kind of thing can be very helpful. If you have a partner that you say, let's meet up on Zoom and let's talk about what we're going to do, and then they're actually there on camera, like watching you, and they're working too, this kind of thing can be super helpful. Sometimes I do this with my husband where I will go specifically to wherever he's working and I'll say, this is the task I really want to get done, is to finish up this workbook. Let's sit up here together and we won't talk. And he's not really watching what I'm doing, but he knows that I'm working on that and he'll check in with me. How's it going? How did you do with that project? Did you finish your workbook? Let me take a look at it. And that helps me so much with that outer accountability, because when I am not feeling motivated, it is so helpful to know somebody else is out there expecting me to get this done. And I don't have to only rely on my own willpower and motivation. I have that external sort of support and cheerleading. We do this in my Heart Breathing's writing community, which is a community of almost 6,000 authors who meet up together regularly on Facebook and YouTube. Not always on my channel. There are lots of other admins that are amazing, and I will link our Google Calendar and everything down below if you'd like to come join us. But basically, we have somebody sprinting every single day of the week throughout the entire year, and sometimes we do writing retreats and things like that. And most of the time people are writing, but more and more you see people who are also I'm going to get my newsletter done during this writing sprint, or I'm going to work on my social media. But it's that magic of having somebody there who's keeping a timer for you, more people in the chat. You can tell them what you're going to work on, and then you can come back and update them on how you did. Just not being alone can be helpful. And another thing I've been doing throughout Nano and more at this year is meeting up on Zoom with my good friend Jen, and we'll usually be writing, but we do this at least once a week. We'll meet up for 2 hours on a Zoom call and we'll chat, and it'll be this fun time, but then we set a timer, very much working in those Pomodoro sessions or those task blocks, and we'll get so much done because somebody's there with you. So if you struggle with motivation, set a date with somebody. It can be a friend, it can be someone in your home, or it can be our writing community, and come get some work done. The sixth thing that has helped me tremendously in my productivity and time management journey has been identifying my low energy tasks versus my high energy tasks. So this is an exercise where you can literally just take out 2 sheets of paper and you can say, what are the things that really are easy to do when I'm not feeling well? And this list could be different for everyone. So some people, email just drains them. Like, ask my husband to write an email or make a phone call and he is stressed. But I don't mind emailing. I can email from my bed with a cold. Like, it's fine for me. I don't struggle with that writing process of an email. If you ask me though to be on video or to do a live stream, that's going to take a lot of energy out of me. It's sort of like a performance, right? So that is a high energy task. And what I try to do is, number one, I try not to put too many high energy tasks back to back to back. Because if I have an entire week where I've done 4 or 5 live streams, I've made 3 or 4 videos, I'm going to be complete toast. And if it just so happened that I had a cold that week or a headache or something else, my entire week would be shot and my plans wouldn't go the way that I hoped they would, or my energy wouldn't be in the right place. So I try to plan each day with a mix of those high energy tasks, but I do also try to plan for each week to have at least 1 or 2 days a week that are nothing but low energy tasks, just low, easy things, cleaning my room, answering those emails, making some graphics, kind of thinking about social media, answering and responding to DMs or doing some Instagram stories. Those things seem very low energy for me and they're very easy. But ask me to go through all my finances and sales numbers and it's going to drain me. So I make sure that those high energy tasks are not grouped together with like also doing a live stream or also creating a video for the day. And that also can help when you wake up and you're not feeling your best. Either it's because of your mental health is just not where you want it to be and you need a mental rest day, or it's that you have really started to burn yourself out and you just need a break. You can still move yourself forward on your goals by identifying which of your tasks are low energy tasks. And even if you just get 1 or 2 done on those low days, you didn't give up, you didn't stop, you still made progress. And that can start to build positive momentum, not only in the results that you see, but also just internally for yourself. The other side of that is tip number 7 is that when you genuinely need a break, give yourself permission to take a break. Now, we're all a little bit different in terms of how much we can take. There are certain types of people, like if you have Achiever in your top 5, shout out to Becca Syme and Strengths for Authors and Gallup Strengths. Some people like to be busy. We like to achieve a lot of things. And so if you followed me for any period of time, you know that I like to have a lot of things on my to-do list. And in fact, I am what Becca calls a phoenix in that I love to work, and really binge and like portal into a project and just get it all the way done. And I enjoy the thrill of working really hard towards a project. And then once it's done, I will take a break and then I will work. And I get joy out of that and satisfaction. But not everybody is like that. A lot of people like to just do a little bit every day and they can't or don't prefer to push themselves to higher levels of productivity at any one time. And so what burns each individual person out or how you prefer to work is truly an individual thing. And so learning your own strengths, maybe checking out Becca Syme's information. I will link her down below. She has some amazing books on burnout and energy pennies and so many great videos and things like that. So she has a YouTube channel I'll link to down below and you can find all of her stuff from there. But the more you can learn about yourself and the way that you can maximize your own productivity journey. Like, what are your ebbs and flows? What are your highs and lows? How do you work best? The more you can begin to understand when it is that you need to take a break. But for everybody, whenever you have reached that limit, if you don't allow yourself to take a break because you say, if I slow down, everything's going to fall apart, or there's people relying on this, I've got a pre-order, I've got this. If we continue to push ourselves beyond a healthy limit, we're going to end up taking a break one way or another, either because our bodies give out, we completely burn out, and then we need an extended break, or truly we can just develop extreme health problems. I have a friend who ended up in the hospital because she was trying to hit the New York Times bestseller list. Like, no judgment, because we all have been there where we've pushed ourselves to try to hit a goal. And sometimes that can be exhilarating. But when you know it in your heart that it's time to take a break and you don't slow down, you're actually going to start seeing diminishing returns, meaning that the work that you put in is like 1/3 of the work you're capable of. So now it takes you 3 or 4 hours to do the work it might have previously, or when you're at your best, only taking you 30 minutes to do. It might just be better to take those 3 hours off, get some rest, and then have a great 30 minutes, right? Sometimes we need to slow down so that we can speed back up later. And so learning more about yourself and knowing when you need to take a break and then allowing yourself to take that break. Like, I understand how difficult it is to turn to your fans or the people who watch you or anything else and say, hey, I'm not going to have a video this week, or hey, this pre-order is not going to happen. It's devastating. And sometimes it does hurt your career to lose momentum when you can't follow through on things that you said you would. But in the end, pushing ourselves beyond certain limits can be so detrimental to our own mental health and physical health that it's just not worth it. And trust me when I say that if you have to delay a pre-order or something, you're going to be okay. Life will go on. Your fans will be there waiting, and it's going to be all right. Sometimes I think we can blow these things up to be like, my whole career is going to be over, or we can make it mean that we're a certain kind of person. But just give yourself that time to take a break if you need it, and allow yourself to heal and rest and restore, and then come back when you're feeling ready for it. The final tip that I have for you that has been helpful for me is to create GYST Days. So this is a term I got from Kaylin Nicholson. I'm not sure where it originated, but the idea is get your shit together. And it's basically a binge day where you make a long list of stuff that has been kind of hanging over your shoulder for a while, and you just go, 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 go. Like, I'm going to knock 20 things off my list today. For me, when I do a GYST day, or you might call it a binge day or something like that, you could even just call it a checklist day, a power day, whatever you want to call it. When I do that, I will make a long list of the things that I've been avoiding. And often it's small things that have been adding up in the back of my subconscious is like, you got to get this done. You got to get this done. Like getting our Texas driver's licenses figured out, applying for health insurance. It sometimes can be those things that you resist, or it can be really small things like, take the tags off those clothes that you bought a month ago and put them in the washing machine. Order that thing that you were supposed to order, send that email, make that phone call, get that doctor's appointment going, clean this little section of the house, whatever it is, go weed the garden. Like, some of them are big things, some of them are small things, but they're all things that have been kind of taking up space in your mind as things that are undone. And so it's a day for closing those loops and saying, these are the things, and I'm going to just pump myself up. I'm going to make a good coffee. I'm going to make a long to-do list, and I'm going to just start checking things off. And when I do those GYST days, I love to pick the low-hanging fruit off first. And so it'll be like, okay, I'm going to pump myself up. I hate making phone calls. I hate talking to doctors or whatever, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to make a hair appointment. I'm going to make a dentist appointment. I'm going to make a call to Andrew's school. And all of that took me 5 or 10 minutes to get done. But now I've got 3 things off my list. So I'll pick that low-hanging fruit first, highlight it, start to feel good. A lot of times I'll put the list up on the refrigerator or right there in the center of the house, like in the kitchen. And then as I mark stuff off, the whole family can see me doing it. And sometimes I'll delegate things like, okay, let's get this living room cleaned, you guys. Okay, let's go, get all these clothes washed and get them put away. And I often find that after a long period of hard work, when I've had a little bit of rest, that's the perfect time to take a GYST day, like a couple of days of rest. And now I'm ready to get that positive momentum going. And it feels so good to start checking off all those things that got neglected during my deadlines. And then I start to get excited for the future. So those are my 8 tips for time management. These are the things that have really moved the needle for me, really helped me to be more productive. And, I used to be that person sitting there watching Investigation Discovery all day, knowing that I had goals I wanted to reach, knowing that I wanted more than anything to change my own life, and just not knowing where to start. Once I started planning with intention and creating the Kanban board, creating this sort of outer accountability, allowing to work with my own flows of my body with low and high energy, and all of these tips that I've given you today, I started getting stuff done. And that has snowballed into just more and more positive productivity where I take care of myself. I give myself breaks when I need them, but I'm also getting a lot done. So I hope the same for you in 2023 or whenever you happen to be watching this video. I'm wishing you the best. Let's all set some great goals and let's make our dreams come true in the new year. I super love you guys. I will also see you hopefully this Saturday coming up. My annual live stream for planning your 2023 writing year is coming up. If you want to go ahead and grab that workbook for how to plan your 2023 writing year so that you have it printed for our live stream on Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern, it is already there for you in the Heart Breathing's resource library for free. So if you're on my newsletter list, you got a link today again to remind you of where that resource library is that has my plotting notebook and all of those other goodies. Now you will find the 2023 writing plan in that folder. If you are not yet on my newsletter list and you want to get this free workbook along with all my other free resources, then you just have to sign up for the link down below and I will automatically send it to you and give you access to that full Heart Breathing's resource library. Okay, I will see you guys on Saturday. It will be about an hour to an hour and a half live stream and I'm very much looking forward to it. So I will see you there. Bye for now.